Howdy all and welcome. This is Mike from It's Fine Gaming. We're back in Homebrew, and today we're taking a look at quadcopters. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look here. You can see I have 4 rotors and they have identical arms, mirrored across the middle, and I also have the engines all facing inboard, and I had that's also mirrored across the middle. In my coaxial helicopter video, I talked about why I wanted them 180 degrees. So I'll just, I guess, reiterate it a little bit. If these 2 motors back here were on the other side, the center of gravity would be pulled back a little bit just because of the mass of the engines themselves. That, and I have located the shaft just on the inside. If I were to have it in a different orientation, the shaft would be on the outside, which would give a different distance from that shaft to the center point, and from the center point to this engine right here. So my moment arms would all be a little bit different. So that's the purpose, or the reason why I chose that, just to keep things simple. And I knew I wanted my center of gravity to be right in between here as best I could. Beyond that, I have 2 seats and a fuel tank, and I don't have a gyroscope on this one, so it's a pretty quick build. Let's go ahead and take a look at the controls. Grab the seat, lock the screen. Okay, I mapped this to my controller again. I ran into some issues when I was tuning and trying to figure out the best control set. I'm still not very happy with it, but I might talk about that towards the end. My left joystick will tilt forward. If I hit the control button, will tilt forward and backwards. And my left joystick horizontal will just do the front, and the right joystick will do the rear, like such. I also have implemented varying the RPMs of the rotors to create a yaw, as I discussed in the coaxial video as well, which I'm demonstrating right now. So I can actually control the yaw in that way, or I can use just the front, just the rear, or simultaneously. So I have a lot of yaw control. So let's go ahead and take this out and see if I can demonstrate. Now, because I do have, I'm using 2 joysticks, I had to lock my camera. Let's go ahead and just take off here, real smooth. Alright, I can pitch forwards, can pitch back. If I do both the sticks together, I can roll. And if I do them in opposite directions, I'll yaw one way or the other. I could also just use the fronts or the rear, and I can use my bumpers to vary the speeds to cause rotation, like so. I don't have a gyroscope on right now. I found that this is a very stable platform. It's a little bit difficult to control, but as far as losing control and flipping wildly, I didn't experience that quite so much, so I didn't even mess with the gyroscope on this model. That's the control scheme I end up, I guess, settling for. My original idea was to have this orientation, and what I really wanted to do was not have the rotors pitch at all. I wanted to control all directions just by varying the RPMs. For instance, I wanted all of them to hold at whatever, 2000 RPM for a hover, and I wanted to move forward or pitch forward. So by pressing or using a joystick, I wanted to have the rear rotors RPMs increase, which would cause more lift, which would cause me to tilt forward, which would give the same motion as if the rotor themselves were pitching forward. Likewise, if I wanted to pull back, I would increase these RPMs and either hold these steady or drop them, and then I can also do that for the sides. If I increase these, lower those, it would roll to one side and you could do the other. In addition, I also wanted to control the yaw which I am using with the bumpers by speeding up two across from each other that are inverse to the other two and slowing those down. That was the idea, but unfortunately, if we take a look at the motors, we can turn it on. We can control the roll and the pitch, which is the shaft itself turning or tilting in directions. Then we have a throttle axis. Then we have an increase and decrease throttle. These are like the buttons that I use to just have the RPMs all synchronized to take off or to land. So that's these two buttons. And I'm using my bumpers as an axis, which will slow down some and speed up some others. Essentially, I think it's just another throttle axis. So I can use a joystick, and I can use two axes to control the speed of one. And each one can, I guess, proportionally have the same amount of control with the same joystick. Unfortunately, I only have just the one option here for throttle axis, so I guess I settled for this. However, I do have another model that I want to take a look at that has a different rotor orientation, but it is still a quadcopter. This is a second quadcopter I made. Center of gravity is located right here on the shaft, and all the rotors are the same distance from the shaft, so it's pretty well balanced. The biggest difference here is the location of the rotors in relation to the chair. Instead of having two front, two rear, we have one front, one rear, and one on either side. So I'm endeavoring to control this by accelerating each engine in teams. When I want to pitch forward, this rotor accelerates, this one will drop, and likewise for my roll. And to control the yaw, we go ahead and just demonstrate this. To control the yaw, I'm using the bumpers, and I'm tilting all at the same time. And let me demonstrate forwards, backwards, and we have a roll. So this is a design that I'm trying to solely control with accelerating or decelerating the RPMs, but the only thing that I lack is the ability to do a yaw. So I've implemented this with pitching each rotor at the same time. Now, if I had the capability to have a multiple throttle axis, I can try to do other things like I wanted to do on my first quadcopter. But let's go ahead and just check this one out and see how it flies. Alright, now this one I do have a free look because I'm not using the other joystick. Let's go ahead and take off here, get in a better view. Alright, we're going to try tilt forward. Whoop! Whoop! Well, that was very, very responsive. Let's try it from inside the cockpit here. Alright, that's a little bit better. So we do have a tilt. We pitch forwards and back. Oh, it's so extreme. Okay, and we have our roll. Alright, now let's try our yaw. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, the yaw is working. Oh, I just find it very difficult to control this guy. So touchy. It may help if I had more weight. I do have a gyroscope though. Let's turn that on. Alright, it's still pretty extreme as far as controllability. So I'm not very happy with this. What I'd really like is to have these motors have two throttle axis inputs, so I can have two rotors in the front and two in the rear. I think that orientation would be a little bit more stable. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to test it in here, unfortunately. But anyways, I guess this is a good time to wrap it up. We were doing a quick look at quadcopters. The first one I showed, I think, was a little bit more stable, at least when it was trying to recover in flight. This one is very sensitive, and yeah, I was just hoping to make one that had 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, and didn't have to tilt any of the rotors. I attempted this one, and I still had to tilt the rotors to do the yawn. Anyways, this is Mike from It's Fine Gaming. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again.